Wow, I can't believe it took me this long to start this show. It has literally changed my perspective on what it means to be a hero. I gotta know when the next season of this is gonna air. There's so many unanswered questions. My life has no meaning.
It's the most wonderful time of the year once again, my dear viewers. Winter. The air is getting chillier while the music is getting cheerier, and brought with it the merriest holiday with a big man bringing gifts on his sleigh. As the last of the jingle bells chime, I cannot come up with another rhyme, so how about instead we all just relax in the comfort of our own homestead. I had another one in me. But as I was expressing, this winter season is the absolute perfect time to just get all warm and cozy with a nice cup of cocoa and go to your favorite streaming service to binge your favorite series to your heart's content. Until you reach that last episode and a sudden coldness creeps into your heart in the form of sadness over no more episodes to watch. Damn you, binge culture! While in a lot of these cases you just gotta be patient for about a year or so until the next season premieres, there are sadly quite a few shows that heartbreakingly never make it to that point, whether it be with a cancellation because of viewership or even just forgotten to time. And it's no big secret that a repeat victim of the no new season curse tends to be anime, which, being a fan like me who has a strong burning passion for the media, can be very devastating to cope with. Now, it is true that I'm also the type of fan who usually goes straight to the manga or light novel after finishing a good season, even if another one's already been confirmed to be on the way. But with animation, you can sometimes better experience the raw intensity of an epic shonen battle in full choreographed movement, or be able to hear the musical score being played just like how you imagine it would, along with the colorful visuals dancing around the screen in a sort of magical kind of way that can only be replicated through these kinds of adaptations. Although, trust me when I say I do believe there are plenty of advantages for a series being on paper only, but that's not the topic for today. Granted, over the past few years, we have seen quite a resurgence of older shows finally coming out with a brand new season of episodes, and even newer titles that turn out to be big hits are getting greenlit for another go-around a lot more often, which is insane for how rare this used to be back in the day. Which is why this holiday season, I decided it would be fun to talk about some of the series that would absolutely warm my heart and make me scream, "Santa is real!" if I woke up to the wonderful gifts of their new season announcements. That being said, let's waste no more time and gather by the tree to start unwrapping my Christmas anime wish list. Can't be a Christmas special if I don't make it super cheesy. Now you're probably thinking, Justin, did you make this list just so you had another way to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh on the channel? Duh. Yes, I know the original series has long since had its finale, which I thought wrapped up the story perfectly, but come on, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! It has always been one of my favorite franchises ever since I was a little kid watching it on 4Kids TV and playing the card game with my older brother, and it's very much beloved by the fans and the original cast of the latest film Dark-Sided Dimensions is any indicator, so why not another filler season just for funsies? In fact, I would be completely on board if they ever decided to adapt the already existing story from Yu-Gi-Oh! R, which, if you haven't heard about it before, a quick rundown is that it's a side story created by Akira Ito taking place after the Battle City tournament from the original series, with Yugi and his friends resuming normal school life when the villain of the story peekaboos his presence before our hero, which I still find pretty normal for them considering their lives up to this point. This Houdini of a villain is Yako Tenma, former protege to the infamous Maximilian Pegasus, who is now seeking revenge for the defeat of his broken master by taking over Kaiba Corp and kidnapping Anzu for his mysterious Ra project, prompting Yugi to once again duel his way into saving his dear friend and putting a stop to a sinister plan like the king of games that he is. Aw yeah, this is exactly the kind of plot us Yu-Gi-Oh fans come to expect from this world of card games and mystic wonders, and it's only 5 volumes long, so it's the perfect length for a one-core season, and it also adds another interesting layer to the elegant speaking Pegasus's background, even if it's not technically canon. And one quick glance at this first cover showing off a dark version of an Egyptian god paints a picture of the many crazy kinds of duels to see in this story. Or hell, I bet if TV Tokyo really wanted to produce a brand new original storyline, they would have so many unique characters and settings already set in stone that they could easily pull off some sort of big tournament or ancient evil threat. The plot doesn't even have to be overly complicated like that. As long as there are some slick new kinds of cards to make for interesting duels, the possibilities are endless. It's your move, TV Tokyo! Come on, it's time to duel old school once again. I mean, it's time to produce an old school story again. Although we could have a duel if you wanted to. Alright, you all know why I want this one. But seriously, besides seeing this beautiful flugel of destruction once again, No Game No Life built up a massively stylish kind of world centered around the concept of playing games to solve any dispute you can imagine instead of having violence or even wars break out. It's literally the isekai dream for gamers. The sheer amount of creative wackiness that comes from a world run on games would probably make a simple game of hopscotch feel like a Mario Party minigame, seeing how it's essentially the party game isekai, except the stakes of losing are purely up to the player's discretion instead of just a simple "ha, you lose," which can be for better or for worse. But the mass appeal of this series, besides its lovable cast and their comedic tendencies poking fun at nerd culture, is that most of the time the games that are introduced aren't so straightforward with how they can be played, as the world of a manatee is filled with so many magical elements and races you would come to expect from the fantasy genre that we get treated to how imaginative those elements can be implemented into life-size chess games where each piece comes to life, or even actual video game parodies where the unique races can spice up the competition with special advantages only they can utilize, making each game more entertaining to experience. Studio Madhouse beautifully recreated the story pieces crafted in the original story and matched the quality color palette from some of the prettiest isekai art I have ever seen. But they must have actually gone mad since they are still sleeping on the idea of adapting more of this world they've only begun to flesh out. Granted, we did get a movie adaptation that serves as a prequel to how this world became a gamer's paradise, but seeing how well this movie was received makes it even sadder there hasn't been any official news on a season 2, especially seeing how they still have plenty of light novel material they could adapt even if the series isn't technically over yet. I mean, that tease at the end was gonna lead into some kind of board game event. I gotta see what that would be like animated. Plus, it's so refreshing to have exceptionally gifted protagonists have a simple motivation if they just want to be challenged. And while it is heartwarming to see stronger motivations behind the supporting cast, sometimes it's nice to just sit back and enjoy the chaotic entertainment without world-ending stakes involved. Mostly, anyway. I know I'm not the only fan out there who would love to see these siblings' adventures continue in anime form, so all I got left to say is, come on, Madhouse. No second season Jabril, no life. It's funny, I try to avoid fast food like it's the plague, but having a second helping of this series? That would please me. The Devil is a Part-Timer is the reverse isekai that helped make the term reverse isekai, and the only one I've ever seen to do it with such a uniquely comedic concept. The Dark Lord Satan himself is trying to conquer our world by climbing the fast food chain of employment. If that doesn't sound amusing to you, you got no soul. The main attraction behind this series is easily the humor behind the idea of such powerful entities being forced to live average day-to-day lives just trying to survive in poverty, which yeah, is sad to think about in terms of reality, but goddamn does it make for some relatable humor for the audience. As someone who has worked in the fast food industry before, I felt the struggles of having appliances break down on you in the middle of a shift and the struggle of trying to cut corners just to make it to your next paycheck, which gave me a stronger connection to the characters despite the clear difference in magic capabilities. Although I find the idea of someone being able to use magic a lot more believable than having an optimistic attitude working at a McDonald's, McRonald's. Obviously, the comedy only works as well as it does is because of how much the fantasy trope of heroes versus villains is grounded in terms of reality, but that doesn't mean this series cuts any slack when it does implement the out-of-this-world isekai elements. As Studio White Fox delivers superbly animated sequences of magic and combat that reminds you of how much these characters aren't just ordinary people, and there's a whole lot more at stake besides paying bills on time, making for one hell of a delicious combo meal of action-packed fun for the isekai lovers out there. But this series' biggest setback is the reason why I'm talking about it now on this list. There's only one season of it when there's so much more of the story that could be adapted. There are over 20 volumes of the light novel out currently, and this adaptation only covers the first 2, which barely scratches the surface on the story of our devil and hero's supposed destined conflict. Like, the next volume shows they have a kid, they haven't even held hands! But it would be an even bigger shame to let the valuable theme of even the most wicked hearts are capable of changing for the better if only one tiny bit at a time to not be adapted in further detail. As we start to see that in Mao during his time on Earth, that I would love to see another season exploring more of his personal transformation. After all, I'm sure most of the fans watching this show probably consider their boss or manager to be the devil sent to torture them, so tuning in to see the actual devil be the model employee most workplaces wish they had is a comedy goldmine left mostly untouched at this point, and would make for a huge success being served up again even if only for a limited time. It would be the McRib comeback for anime. Now, I'm aware that this is the most unlikely series on this list to get another season after the devastating tragedy at Kyoto Animation Studio earlier this year, and truly my biggest wish this holiday season is that all the families and workers affected by the incident are healing the best they possibly can. From what I understand, the animation studio still has the desire to continue forward with producing anime, so let's just say a few years down the line, if they continue to follow through with that desire, this classic would be my personal favorite series for them to make a comeback with. The melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is no doubt an important part of a lot of anime fans' history, including me, as it was one of the first slice-of-life comedy series I really got into that expanded my interest past the action-packed fighting animes that I was mostly watching at the time. Besides already portraying absolutely beautiful and flowy animation, there was just something mesmerizing about hearing the concept of a high school girl being an unknowing god of the universe, which the entire fate of depends on if she gets too bored with the life she is living, and this girl named Haruhi happened to be adorably charming to boot. Stepping into this series with the SOS Brigade meant we were going to be treated to some wonderfully comedic situations of our main characters doing their damnedest to keep up the excitement for this awe-seeking high school level god, often at their own expense. But what makes it work on a whole other level is the fact that the whole club, besides our ordinary protagonist, is composed of the magical and out-of-this-world kind of entities Haruhi is constantly seeking out, often implementing more sci-fi and fantasy-driven aspects in creative ways that make for bigger laughs, along with adding a surprising amount of intensity to the more dramatic problems our club members are trying to solve for the sake of the world, making for a truly unique experience like no other, especially during the early 2000s. Even with 2 seasons and a stellar movie out there, there's still plenty of material left from the original light novels that could be adapted, including the actual finale to the story of this wacky after-school club. And I know it's been over a decade since the series first premiered, but with how much of an influence this series alone has been to not only the community, but also to a lot of other anime stories, I'm sure bringing back the old gang would be met with a huge wave of excitement from the older fans and create a whole new generation of Brigade members. Plus, no other ending theme like Hair Hair Yukai has made such a huge cultural impact in the world of anime. Like, seriously, so many people dance along to this song online and at conventions that it honestly saddens me when I run into a lot of people these days who haven't even heard of it.
Sir, are you familiar with Hair Hair Yukai?
What's the okay watch?
See? Uncultured swine.
Haruhi Suzumiya is a series that's important for so many reasons that I'm sure me talking about it here isn't doing it enough justice. But even if this series never gets that elusive 3rd season it rightfully deserves, I still highly recommend any anime fan who has never seen it before to go add it to their watch list, because I truly believe this club is definitely worth spending your time with. Take a brief pause here to let you know if you haven't seen at least the first episode of School Live, I highly recommend popping over to Crunchyroll real quick and watching it. Or if you just don't have the time right now but want to remain spoiler free, here's the timestamp you can skip to for the next series on this list. Now, I personally believe this request to be more of a necessity rather than just a simple wish, as living in a world filled with so much conflict and growing darkness has left most of us needing more shining motivators to push ourselves forward. And what better way to unite the entire world for a better future than cute anime girls living their best lives against the undead? I'm telling you, the wholesome imagination of our pink-haired representative Yuki is the key to world peace. School Live is one of those rare mixtures of cute and horror that stems from the idea of trying to maintain a normal life in the midst of an apocalyptic scenario that I'm honestly shocked that not a lot of people seem to be talking about it anymore. While the zombies are the obvious threat for the main characters, the true horror that lies within this story is actually the mental state of each school living member trying their best to cope with their whole world being being turned upside down, paving the way for unsettling tones and dark imagery to be painted against the cheery bubble of denial Yuki expresses throughout the series. That I absolutely love how well balanced the story can be for people looking for a not too dark or not too lighthearted experience. Studio Lerche does an amazing job portraying the brightly optimistic spirit behind the girls living out their club activities amongst the school, but also conveying small hints of darker themes that are just subtle enough that you don't catch on to the big shocking reveals this series likes to hit you with, making for one hell of an emotional roller coaster that I didn't want to step off of. This became one of my absolute favorite series out there just for the sheer amount of life lessons you can unpack from spending your time with these characters alongside the different kind of horror you get to experience watching it. So I think the more time spent with this club learning how they move past and cope with their fears would bring a lot more good into the world. At the release of the final episode, there wasn't too much more of the manga out at the time, but now that the manga has sadly reached its final chapter just barely a month ago, they now have plenty of material they could adapt into a second season that would finish off the last of this cutesy horror story, especially since they already established their next destination along with a hint of another survivor. They could title it School Live College Tour, a fitting name for literal and metaphorical reasons. No need to thank me, Studio Lerche. I'll see myself out.
You never see it come back.
I bet you really didn't. Well, neither did the citizens of Cappy Town when the adorable pink ball of pure joy Kirby crash landed at their doorstep, creating a whole new slew of zany adventures this Nintendo mascot has never traversed before. At least in anime format. Kirby Right Back At Ya was one of my most watched Saturday morning shows along with Yu-Gi-Oh! And Ninja Turtles back in the days of having no cable to watch most cartoons. But 4Kids TV had me covered at least once a week with this Star Warrior foiling the plans of the evil King Dedede time and time again. Although even as a kid, I didn't really see him as evil, more like a silly penguin who just needed a nice hug. Which honestly was the kind of vibe I feel Studio Comet was going for when bringing the more cartoony kind of style when showing off the wacky nature of these characters and made for entertaining humor, often at the king's expense. But also maintained a strong anime feel when showing off Kirby's famous sucking powers in action and powering up for some good old-fashioned beat-em-up action that was worth waking up early for. I know there's some big differences between the original Japanese version and the version we got here in America, like how its original name translates to Kirby of the Stars, but I just can't help but prefer the English version for nostalgia's sake. I mean, just listen to that classic 4Kids OP.
Kirby, that's a name you should know. Kirby, he's the star of the show.
Oh yeah, my Saturday mornings weren't complete without me inhaling Cocoa Puffs to this jam. This is another case where this series did technically have a proper finale in terms of story, but come on, it's Kirby! All you gotta do is slap a couple new villains from recent games along with some new forms and power-ups, maybe a new original big baddie, and BAM! A sequel season titled Kirby Right Back At Ya, again, is born. I'm sure they could probably come up with a better name than that. If I could wish upon a warp star this holiday season, I think it would be for our lovable pink heroes' adventures to deliver smiles to everyone down on their spirits. After all, who can stay sad when you see this adorable face on a weekly basis? Hell, I'd even settle for an OVA reunion special. I would honestly love to talk a lot more about this adorable pink glutton in the cosmos, but that's a video for another day. So let me leave you with one last summation of how I feel whenever I see Kirby in any sort of form. And with that last gift unwrapped, we've reached the end of this year's Christmas wish list. While there are many other series out there, what I would also love to have another season, Old Saint Nick can only deliver so much joy to the world that it's best to not get too greedy. As always, guys, thank you so very much for watching this special holiday themed list all the way to the end. Combining Christmas with the nerdy things I'm passionate about seemed like a no-brainer for what kind of content I wanted to make in the spirit of the season. If you enjoyed the video, giving the jolly old thumbs up would be a huge way to support the channel, and if you want to stay up to date for any potential video gifts I may deliver, inhaling that subscribe button and hitting that jingle bell would be the best way to make sure you don't miss out on what's coming up next year. Before I wrap things up completely, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The fact that you are watching this video right now is the best Christmas gift I could ever ask for, and I hope you get to enjoy the holidays with the people you hold dear. And I also wish for your favorite anime to get another season if it hasn't already. Who knows, maybe if you leave the manga version with Santa's milk and cookies this year, it might be the kick in the rear to make it happen next year. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna see if I can get Nugget Hero trending on Twitter.